Go ahead. Tell us what happened.
Absolutely. So my husband and I were just driving back from Palm Springs. We had been there for a few days, and we stayed at the Bellagio numerous times, and we thought, okay, let's just go to the Bellagio. We know where to eat. We like it. We thought we'd still have time at the pool, that kind of thing. So friends of ours were at the festival, and she was like, hey, you're here. And I said, yeah. They invited us to come over because they actually had left the festival to go and shower, and they were going to go back again. And I said, no, we're going to go have dinner with my husband's family. So we were going to meet out afterwards because they were going to go downtown and go ziplining. And so we said, okay, well, we'll get back here around 9:30 or 10. And they said that was perfect because they thought they'd be over to the Bellagio around 10:30. And probably right around 10:30. So we said, okay, so we did. We got back there about 9:30, 9:45. And my husband and I love the Petrosian Lounge that with the piano bar and everything. We know a couple of the piano players there. And we walked right in, sat right down, started talking with the cocktail waitress. She had worked there for like 13 years. So we're sitting there talking. And I was texting my friend who was at the festival, who I'd been chatting with all day long. And she wasn't answering. So I'm thinking, well, maybe it's just loud and she'll look at her phone. So we're sitting there, like 10:30, 10:45. And I'm like, well, this isn't normal because normally she's known me for years and years. She's not like a flake, I guess you could say. So about 11 o'clock, I told Daniel, I'm like, well, I know that they're going ziplining downtown and I know they had already gotten their tickets. So let's just get a drink and then because we were just sitting there. We didn't know if they were going to come walking in and we were just all going to leave. So,
and this was 11 o'clock p.m.
11 o'clock. So, because I was just drinking water prior to that. We hadn't drank. And like I said, we were with his family and everything and the kids. So we went to order a drink. And then all of a sudden, this huge crowd, I can't even explain it. Just a stampede came rushing through the doors. The block things that you stand at the front, the red ropes, were all people weren't running around them. They were running over them. And we heard the gunfire. And the best that I can describe it, Tracy, is the fact that it was like if you take a board and you drop it on the floor, and it was like just this pop, 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 like that. And it was automatic. And I didn't know what kind of gunfire until my husband told me afterwards. And because I've never heard anything like that. And all I thought was, dear Lord, what? My husband literally takes me and puts me down underneath the table, which I showed in the video. This other lady was laying head to head with me and she's crying. And she I guess, had jumped over the cement pillars and she's crying. I don't know where my son is. And I was like, that's okay. I said, just hold on. He'll be okay. He'll be okay. And I just started praying. And I was like, Lord, just please cover us, cover my husband, covering us. I didn't even know what to do. I just wanted her to hear that we were still talking. And then all of a sudden it just got quiet. I felt my husband kind of lift up off of me a little bit. And people kind of looked up. Then all of a sudden security came in and they're like, go, everybody back. And we got up and everybody ran into the bar because we were sitting right out in front where the piano is. Everybody ran in and then there was a long hallway I never even knew was there. And my husband stayed out there making sure that everybody was getting back safely. I lost my husband and I'm yelling, where's my husband? Where's my husband? He's making sure that everybody's getting through because he's a retired Marine and that's just what they do.
Yeah.
And so he was able to catch up with me in the back quarter. I didn't know where I was. And people, once we got back there, kind of started scattering because all we knew is we wanted to get off of that floor. At 11 o'clock, right about, is when we said, you know what, let's just get a drink if she's not coming or something. So probably it was around 11:15, 11:20-ish was when the whole flood of people started flying in through the doors. We got up into a tower and it said 32. And I don't know if that's a 32nd floor, if that's just the number that we were, but it was 32. And there was a group of us then at that point, because people had kind of gone into groups and that had gotten on the elevators. And so we got all the way, my husband was looking for where the exits were. And people were holding the door open for him because we knew that they locked behind him. So he had me placed up against a door in case shooters were going to come down the hallway. Like I said, we didn't know who was where or anything. Mm-hmm. So he walked out into the hallway, but he could see down that it was just out to the street. And he didn't want us on the street because that's where we had heard it coming from. So we didn't know if it was around us or inside. We didn't know. So we got back up to the room. Now this is probably about 10 minutes to 12. Mm-hmm. We had heard the sirens. So immediately we turned on the TV thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to be all around outside the Bellagio. We're looking at the stuff that's going on at Mandalay Bay. And we're like, wait a minute, what the heck? Because we had zero clue that anything had happened at Mandalay Bay. And they were showing us all this stuff. And we're like, oh, dear Lord. I called first I called 911. And I'm sure they were getting inundated with calls. And then they connected me to the non-emergency line. And they took my statement saying, look, we were here. This is what just happened at the Bellagio. And she said, okay, I'll pass this on. So we're sitting there watching the TV. And then the sheriff comes on and he doesn't say a thing about the Bellagio. I don't know what was happening at the other hotels, but there was nothing said. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's still people walking around in here. And if there's people with guns, or we never saw anybody with guns, but I heard them. My husband is extremely well trained in knowing where and when and how, after almost 23 years in the Marine Corps, where things are. And for him, who he does not scare easily, to literally take me and put me down under the table and to cover me, there was a direct threat. And we were just waiting for them, and they didn't say anything. Nobody was saying anything. So we sat there for a little while longer, and my husband said, okay, we're just going to go. You just stay right with me. So we went to go down, and that's when I started the video, because all these people were down there. We tried to go out, and we were all blocked off. The security had blocked it. You couldn't get down the corridor into the casino or into the lobby. So when we were in the lobby, when we had initially dropped, before the security came down, as people kind of started to look up, you could see all the glass and people's shoes and purses. I mean, people just dropped and ran. And
so there was broken glass there, and there was chaos and, damage and things like that.
Yeah, there was even the glass partition things that say like what show is going on there, or, where to go eat, that kind of thing. Those things were trampled over. People didn't run around things. They ran through them and over them. So,
so another question about the glass. Was the glass that was broken in the front of the building from the doors of the hotel, or from other things that were broken through the trample?
We couldn't see.
Or do you not know?
We could not see. And that was why when we went to go down, we thought, well, are they fixing the doors? What does this look like? Is basically what it was. And when we were held back, and then I saw these people, I just told Daniel, I'm like, okay, if people are still walking around out there, we could see them cleaning up. We could see the crews in there cleaning up, but we couldn't get to them. So we started walking the other way down the hall, and that's when I started filming. And I'm like, this is where we're at. We're at the Bellagio Hotel, and we're trapped and I was also doing that because if there was something else going on, I wanted people to know where we all were. That this is like, okay, I don't know who's in their rooms or but there's actually people in here. I went to go walk outside, and that's where you see the one police officer, security person that says, no, this is all blocked off. You can't come out here. So we thanked him and said, okay. And we turned around. That's when we went back up to the hotel staff. So I was filming, and I'm like, all right, so let's see. Are they going to say, oh no, it'll just be a couple minutes, that kind of thing. And they were basically telling people, if you have a room here, go back up to your room. And that's when I walked up to the other lady that was standing there, and I said, okay, so are you guys blocking this because of everything that went on? And that's when she said, yes, of course, is what you heard. And I said, because they're not saying this on the news. And she said, yes, again. I said, they're not saying anything about the gunfire. And she was like, no, they're not. So everything that I was saying to her, I wasn't trying to lead her. I was just making sure that they knew exactly what we were trying to protect people from that could be still going on. We did not know if there were still people in that hotel that were running around on the floors. So it got to be about 6:30, 6:30, and we went to walk back downstairs, and my husband and I are like, let's go get some coffee, because we were leaving and McCarran Airport had shut down and that night. So we didn't even know if we were going to get out. And so when we had gotten back into the room, we were just kind of, you know, putting our stuff together. And we went to go and get coffee, and people were standing in there and they were talking and everything. And then you saw some people that were standing in there that just were sitting on the chairs that were also telling the same story, that had been up all night. And people were like, what? If you went to bed at 10 o'clock that night at the Bellagio, you had no idea that anything happened, because the next morning when we were able to go into the coffee shops and everything was open, there wasn't a piece of lint out of place. There were some old people that were in the coffee shop that were behind us. And I had gotten a phone call as we were standing there, and I was telling them, and they were like, wait a minute, what? One lady said she was actually all the way towards the back playing blackjack. Then she went on to one of the slot machines. Nobody even saw her. She didn't know.
They cleaned up everything. Yep. And you're going, I guess, to check out at this point, right? Because it's 6:30 in the morning. You have to catch a flight, hopefully, and you want to check out. And, you know, what happened then? So
we go to check out, and I'm thinking, well, we were in our room maybe a total of 2.5 hours. So I walked up and I'm saying, all right, so because of everything that went on last night, I said to the girl, and with all the gunshots and stuff, I said, are you guys discounting rooms? How are you handling this? And she said, hold on a second. So she goes to the back and she gets her manager, and the manager comes out, and my husband and I are standing there. And she said, she can help you. I said, yeah, I was just asking if you guys are discounting rooms, because none of us could really get there. And most of us didn't really sleep because of all the gunfire and all the happenings here last night. And she looked right at us and she said, there was no gunfire outside the Bellagio Hotel last night. Just like that. It's like it's scary, isn't it? Like the Twilight Zone. That is chilling to me. My husband's face was, and he is so calm, so mild mannered. And my husband's face, he was straight. And I looked and I was like, really? Okay, well, let me show you the video from where we were all blocked off and security and what I was, and I didn't even have to show it to them. She said, hold on one moment, ma'am. Walks in the back, comes back out, slides our receipt over and says, here you go. You guys have a good day. And the receipt had 0 goose eggs. I'm like I mean, that is just crazy. I called it the hush comp. I mean, I've gambled hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars at hotels, and it was this. I didn't know if they were just discounting. I just couldn't believe it. But when she said there was, and she leaned right over and she said, there was no gunfire at the Bellagio Hotel last night. And I was like, basically what you're telling me, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe what was being said. And you see, this is why I decided to do this. And thank you so much for this. Like, you have no idea how helpful this is, because there are people like you all over Vegas that are saying, I experienced something that everybody refuses to acknowledge or tells me that I'm crazy. When I got off the plane here, I did an interview with Channel 5 in DC. And the way that it was portrayed was, you know, I gave them this long interview after this 5-hour plane flight, 4.5, 5 hours from Vegas to here, gave them an interview. And then the slice that I saw by the time, you know, we had turned on the TV was like, wait a minute. And they said, well, you know, we called, I think in a way they were trying to explain that they were being told that I might have misheard echoes. And the echoes that were 45 minutes later. Now, I don't know about you, but when you fire a gun, unless it's going to go, stop, do something, hang out for a while, and then decide, doesn't take 45 minutes. It takes about 3 seconds. Right. And not only that, but like we were talking, the Bellagio is 1.5 miles away from down the street. Bay. Right. Yep. So it's a 7-minute car ride. Yes. So unless these were miracle bullets, I think that you've got something else going on over there. Yep. Yep. And we also have friends of ours that we didn't even know were out there. One was at Caesar's Palace. There was another lady that was stranded over at the CVS, and they were blockaded inside the CVS because the taxi cab drivers were saying nobody out on the streets. There's multiple gunfire. So these people have all sent me private messages as well saying, look, this is where we were and this is what happened and that kind of thing. So it's just kind of like, Why wouldn't all they had to say was people up and down the strip, take cover, get inside, do something. And nobody was saying anything. And I'm just like, this is people, these are people's lives. I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it. My husband actually had to put out a statement. And if I can bring this up, I don't know how long you have, because it says it perfectly. We even heard it last night that somebody was saying something about that I had said the word shrapnel and stuff like that. We never saw any gunmen. We didn't. I heard everything. We saw mass chaos. Did I see any gunmen? No. Do I know it was 45 minutes later? Yes. Did I see any bullets myself? No. Did we assume that they were being fired at the front doors of the Bellagio because of where we were sitting 75 feet away? Yes. It says, just to clarify some of the misconceptions that might exist from the written narrative that accompanied my videos. We absolutely heard gunshots while sitting in the Bellagio lobby, Petrosian Lounge, about 75 to 90 feet from the glass doors of the main lobby entrance. We did not see any gunmen. Instead, we saw a wave of human chaos come crashing through those doors and rush in all directions through the lobby and casino. Hundreds of people running in all directions away from the gunfire. Rene and I took cover under a table next to the piano bar, or next to the piano in the piano bar when things started to quiet down. The Bellagio security in the red jackets came running through yelling, "Run." So we ran through to the back of the lounge into a series of corridors until we found a bank of elevators and eventually made it back to our room. All of this happened between 11 and 11:30, which was 30 to 45 minutes after the shootings at Mandalay Bay. Several hours later, around 2 a.m., Rene and I went back downstairs, and that was when she shot this video. Casino staff were scrambling to clean up and secure all cash, poker chips, etc. All the players, dealers, literally everyone had to run for their lives when the shots were heard earlier. There are people that have better video than I do. There were people that have video like of gunshots at the Aria, of stories that where they were at the other hotels. And I'm sitting there, and what I can't understand is, if you've been to the Bellagio and everybody's standing out there getting ready to take pictures of the fountains as the fountains do the water dance and stuff like that. How is there not any more video? How? I mean, I understand if you hear gunshots, it's not like you're going to stand there and go, oh, where are these coming from? You're going to drop and run. There was one guy that messaged me. He was up on the balcony of the hotel next to us. And he was like, we saw all the cop cars come, and they had their own story as far as they got pushed back into the kitchen there and everything. And it was just like, he can't say anything either.
Okay, I have a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
Someone's saying, do we know of anybody who has pictures of the shattered glass at the Bellagio?
No, not that I know of. We went back downstairs. And of course, during everything happening, the last thing that I actually thought about was reaching into my purse to grab my phone. And as people are stampeding towards us, and I'm down to the ground. And then when the security came through, we were already rushed back. So I don't have any. However, when we went back downstairs, I honestly thought, now I stepped on it right outside that hallway that was after the casino. I personally stepped on glass. And so, because you could hear it, I knew that. I was like, Daniel, there's still glass here. His sister-in-law, or my sister-in-law, his sister, Denise, called us. They don't live in the United States. They live out of country. And they called because they were seeing stuff right as we got into the room and turned on the TV. And they were like, what? And so Denise was literally, kind of filling us in too, what they had already been watching, because we hadn't gotten to the room yet.
And you had no idea that anything else was even happening.
No, we had no idea that all of this had happened prior to what was going on there. And ours, by no means, I haven't heard of anybody getting hurt I don't know, and I also don't know what's being said and what's not being said. And I do not mean any of this as far as any kind of takeaway from the Mandalay Bay, because that above and beyond is the main focus. And I get that. My thing was the fact that there were other people that were still at risk, and it could have been really, really bad.
The mainstream media basically won't touch the story because they're being told by officials that it didn't happen, and everybody that experienced it is mishearing or misexperiencing or didn't understand what was happening.
That's what I have been told by one of my very good friends that I gave an interview to almost immediately. It was right around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And she called and she said, Renee, and then I just spoke with her yesterday and asked her regarding how the printing of it was going to be. And she was like, they won't give me the go ahead on it. Because they actually had left the festival to go and shower and they were going to go back again. And I said, no, we're going to go have dinner with my husband's family. So we were going to meet out afterwards because they were going to go downtown and go ziplining. And so we said, okay, well, we'll get back here around 9:30 or 10. And they said that was perfect because they thought they'd be over to the Bellagio around 10:30. And probably right around 10:30.
Go ahead. Tell us what happened.
Absolutely. So my husband and I were just driving back from Palm Springs. We had been there for a few days. And we stayed at the Bellagio numerous times. And we thought, okay, let's just go to the Bellagio. We know where to eat. We like it. We thought we'd still have time at the pool, that kind of thing. So friends of ours were at the festival. And she was like, hey, you're here. And I said, yeah, they invited us to come over downtown. And I know they had already gotten their tickets. So let's just get a drink. And then because we were just sitting there. We didn't know if they were going to come walking in and we were just all going to leave. So,
and this was 11 o'clock p.m.
11 o'clock. So, because I was just drinking water prior to that. We hadn't drank. And like I said, we were with his family and everything and the kids. So we went to order a drink. And then all of a sudden, this huge, so we said, okay, so we got back there about 9:30, 9:45. And my husband and I love the Petrosian Lounge with the piano bar and everything. We know a couple of the piano players there. And we walked right in, sat right down, started talking with the cocktail waitress. She had worked there for like 13 years. So we're sitting there talking. And I was texting my friend who was at the festival, who I'd been chatting with all day long, and she wasn't answering. So I'm thinking, well, maybe it's just loud and she'll look at her phone. So we're sitting there like 10:30, 10:45. And I'm like, well, this isn't normal because normally she's known me for years and years. She's not like a flake, I guess you could say. So about 11 o'clock, I told Daniel, I'm like, well, I know that they're going ziplining